Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. But what if the sweetest revenge isn't destroying someone who hurt you, but becoming so incredible they realize what they lost? This is the story of how my greatest humiliation became my most powerful transformation. Welcome to Tea and Payback, where the tea is hot, the secrets are messy, and karma always finds her way home. Before I go on, just a quick reminder. I share new life stories every day. If you enjoy them, subscribing and liking the video would mean a lot to me. Now sit down, pour yourself a cup of tea, let's continue. My name is Sophia. I'm 38 years old, and 6 weeks ago my husband walked out on me after calling me disgusting. He said I was too fat to love anymore. He said he couldn't stand to touch me. Then he packed his bags and moved in with his secretary, a woman barely older than some of the clothes in my closet. That should have destroyed me. For a while it did. But then something shifted, and what happened next, well, nobody saw it coming. Especially not him. Let me take you back to where it all started to crumble. It was a Tuesday morning in late September. Rain hammered against the kitchen windows, and I stood there eating oatmeal. Plain oatmeal. No sugar, no butter, nothing that might give Trevor another reason to criticize me. But even that wasn't enough. His voice cut through the quiet like a blade. "You're eating again?" I heard the disgust before I even turned around. He stood in the doorway, already dressed for work in one of those perfectly tailored suits I used to iron for him. His eyes scanned me with the kind of contempt you'd reserve for something you found rotting in the back of the fridge. "It's just breakfast," I said quietly, my hand instinctively covering the bowl. "Breakfast," he repeated, his voice dripping with mockery. "Look at yourself, Sophia. You've become enormous. I can barely stand to look at you, let alone touch you." The words landed like physical blows. I knew I'd gained weight. 60 pounds since our son Ethan was born 5 years ago. I'd tried everything. Diets that left me shaking with hunger. Gym memberships I could barely afford. But between working full-time as a bookkeeper, raising a child, and managing a household, the weight clung to me like a second skin. Every mirror became an enemy. Every reflection a reminder of my failure. "I'm trying," I whispered, but even I didn't believe it anymore. "Trying." He laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. 20 years ago when I met you, you were stunning. Men couldn't take their eyes off you. Now I'm embarrassed to be seen with you in public." This wasn't new. For the past year, these comments had become as routine as his morning coffee. But repetition didn't make them hurt less. If anything, each one cut deeper, confirming what I'd started to believe. That I was unlovable. That I deserved his contempt. He grabbed his briefcase and checked his watch. "I have a late meeting tonight. Don't wait up." "Another meeting?" The question came out before I could stop it. He didn't even bother responding. The door slammed shut, and I was alone in the silent apartment. Ethan had left for a week-long stay with my sister Rebecca, and the emptiness felt suffocating. I stared at the oatmeal, my appetite gone, but I finished it anyway. What else was there to do? Then his phone buzzed on the counter. He'd forgotten it. I glanced at the screen and froze. The message preview was from someone named Vanessa. "Baby, can't wait to see you tonight. I miss your hands on me." My heart stopped. My hands trembled as I picked up the phone. I knew his password. He'd never bothered to change it, probably never thought I'd have reason to check. The messages went back months. 6 months, maybe longer. Vanessa worked in his office. She was 26 tall, with legs that went on forever in the photos they'd exchanged. Everything I wasn't anymore. The messages were explicit, tender, full of promises and passion that had been missing from our marriage for years. There were plans for trips, late-night meetings that were never about work, declarations of love. And then I saw it, a recent exchange. She was pregnant. He was excited. He told her he wanted to be with her, to start fresh, to finally be happy. I put the phone down carefully, like it might explode. My chest felt tight, airless. But I didn't cry. Not yet. The tears would come later, in waves that threatened to drown me. For now, there was only numbness, a cold, spreading void that swallowed everything. I went to the bedroom and pulled out our wedding album. There I was, 22 years old in a white dress that hugged a body I'd taken for granted back then. Slender, glowing, happy. Trevor looked at me in those photos like I was the only person in the world. When had that changed? When had I become invisible? That night, Trevor came home after midnight. I pretended to be asleep, but I heard him in the bathroom. Smelled perfume that wasn't mine. Felt the distance between us in bed. A chasm that had been growing for years, but now felt impossible to cross. I waited until morning. "Trevor," I said softly as he got dressed. "You forgot your phone yesterday." He froze. His face went pale, then flushed with anger. "You read my messages," he said. It wasn't a question. There was a text on the screen. I saw it. "How long?" His jaw clenched. 6 months. Maybe more. Does it matter? Does it matter? I sat up, feeling something I'd thought was dead beginning to stir inside me. "You've been cheating on me for half a year, and you're asking if it matters? What did you expect?" He turned on me, cold fury in his eyes. "Look at yourself, Sophia. You stopped caring. You stopped being a woman. You're just there taking up space, comfortable furniture I got tired of looking at. I gave birth to your son," I said, my voice shaking. "I work. I take care of this house. I've done everything for this family." "And you kept eating," he interrupted. "Don't make excuses. Vanessa is 10 years younger than you, but she finds time to stay fit, to be desirable. When's the last time you wore anything except those shapeless dresses?" The words were designed to wound, and they hit their mark. But then he said something that changed everything. "I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. Vanessa is pregnant. I want to be with her. I want to live my life, Sophia. And I don't have a future with you." The world tilted. Everything I'd built, 20 years of marriage, of sacrifice, of trying to be enough, it all came crashing down in that single moment. He packed a suitcase while I sat frozen on the bed. "I'll be back next week for the rest," he said, zipping the bag. "We'll figure out the details then. I'll talk to Ethan when he gets back." Just like that. 20 years dismissed like a failed business transaction. After he left, I sat in the empty apartment and waited for the tears. They came eventually, violent and consuming. I cried until my throat was raw, until there was nothing left inside me but a hollow ache. For 3 days, I barely moved. I called in sick to work. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think beyond the crushing realization that I'd been abandoned, that I'd failed, that everything Trevor said about me was true. On the 4th day, I forced myself to go to the grocery store. I needed food, even if I had no appetite for it. I pulled on jeans that barely buttoned and a loose tunic that hid everything I hated about my body. Walking down the street felt like moving through water. Everything was too bright, too loud, too real. At the store, I filled the cart mechanically. Rice, milk, bread, eggs. Then I passed the bakery section and stopped. Chocolate eclairs. My favorite. Trevor used to glare at me every time he saw them in the fridge. "You're already fat enough," he'd say. "What are you doing eating that garbage?" I grabbed 2 boxes. Then cookies. Then dark chocolate, the expensive kind I used to love in college. At home, I sat at the kitchen table and ate. 3 eclairs, then 4. The sweetness filled my mouth, and for a few minutes, the pain receded. But then it came roaring back, twice as strong, along with crushing self-loathing. This is why he left. Because you can't even control yourself. I looked at the empty boxes and finally truly broke. The sobs came from somewhere deep, primal, a grief so complete it felt like it would consume me entirely. The phone rang. Trevor's mother, Patricia Hensley. Her voice was ice. "Sophia, Trevor told me everything. I want to take Ethan for the summer. He shouldn't see you like this." "Like what?" "Trevor says you've completely let yourself go. That you're depressed. A child doesn't need that environment." "You don't have the right," I said, panic rising. "I have every right to care for my grandson. Trevor is starting a new life, and you need to sort yourself out. The boy shouldn't suffer because you couldn't keep your husband satisfied." The line went dead. She'd hung up on me. I stared at the phone, feeling the walls close in. They wanted to take Ethan. They wanted to strip away the one person who loved me unconditionally, who needed me. Something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. And through that crack, something else began to emerge. Fury. I stood up and walked to the hallway mirror. Really looked at myself for the first time in years. Swollen face. Dull hair pulled back carelessly. A body hidden beneath shapeless clothes. When did this happen? When did I stop recognizing myself? I remembered the girl I used to be. The one who danced until dawn at college parties. The one who dreamed of opening her own interior design studio. The one who had plans and ambitions and fire in her belly. Where did she go? She drowned, I realized. She drowned in trying to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect everything for everyone except herself. And Trevor left anyway. Patricia threatened to take my son anyway. I'd sacrificed everything, and it meant nothing. I walked into the bedroom and opened Trevor's closet. His suits hung there, perfectly pressed. I'd always taken care of his wardrobe, ironed every shirt, dry cleaned every jacket. I started pulling them out, one by one, throwing them onto the floor. The suit he wore to our anniversary last year. The shirt I gave him for his birthday. The tie he wore to Ethan's preschool graduation. They fell in a heap, and I stood there breathing hard, staring at the pile. What was I doing? What was the point? I sank to the floor beside the clothes and cried again. But this time, something was different. Through the tears, a thought began to form. No more. The next morning, I woke up with absolute clarity. Something had shifted overnight. I didn't want to lie in bed and feel sorry for myself anymore. I didn't want to be a victim. I got up, took a real shower, washed my hair properly for the first time in over a week. I pulled Trevor's bathrobe out of the closet, carried it and all his clothes to the hallway. Later, I'd take them to charity, or just throw them away. I didn't care. I called my boss at the accounting firm where I worked. Miss Chun, this is Sophia. I'm coming back tomorrow. Are you sure? Maybe you should take more time. She'd been kind about my medical leave, the one the doctor prescribed for nervous exhaustion. No, I need to work. Thank you for understanding. Work would be a distraction. It would give me structure, purpose. After the call, I opened my laptop and started researching divorce. The procedure, the documents, the timeline. With a minor child, it had to go through court. I'd need an attorney. I found a family law specialist named Ryan Bishop and scheduled a consultation for the following week. Then I checked our bank account. Joint account, but most of the money was gone. Trevor had withdrawn nearly everything before he left. Only $8,000 remained. I transferred it immediately to my personal account. It was my money too. I'd earned it. The apartment was in my name, left to me by my parents 10 years ago. At least I had that. At least Ethan and I had somewhere stable to live. I looked at my son's photo on the shelf. A blonde, smiling 5-year-old boy who loved me unconditionally. I would not let Patricia take him. I would fight. I called my sister Rebecca. How's my boy? Sophia, she said warmly. He's wonderful. We went to the zoo today. He asks about his dad constantly. What should I tell him? Tell him Daddy's busy. I'll explain everything when I pick him up soon. Rebecca, I need to warn you. Patricia might try to contact you. Ask you to hand Ethan over to her. Please don't. What happened? Trevor left me for his secretary. She's pregnant. And now his mother wants custody of Ethan. The silence on the line was heavy. Oh my God. Sophia, why didn't you call me sooner? I couldn't. But I need you now. Don't give Ethan to anyone but me. I'll be there in a few days. Of course. Absolutely. We'll be here waiting. After we hung up, I felt marginally better. Ethan was safe. That was what mattered most. I opened the refrigerator and looked at the remaining eclairs, the chocolate, the cookies. All the comfort food I'd been drowning in. I grabbed a garbage bag and threw it all away. Every bit of it. Enough, I said aloud to the empty kitchen. Enough feeling sorry for yourself. I found a gym nearby. The membership wasn't cheap, but it was essential. I signed up for a trial class the next evening. Then I found an online support group for women going through divorce. Meetings every Tuesday and Thursday. I registered. Maybe there I'd find people who understood what I was going through. By evening, I had a plan. Return to work. File for divorce. Get Ethan back. Start exercising. Find a therapist. Get back to myself. That last point terrified me most. Get back to myself. Who even was that person anymore? I went to bed early and slept deeply for the first time in over a week. No nightmares, no waking at 3 a.m. in a panic. Just sleep. I woke at 7, did a 15-minute workout I found online. My body ached and protested, but I finished. Then I had breakfast. Oatmeal with sliced apple and green tea. At work, colleagues greeted me cautiously. Miss Chen called me into her office. "Sophia, how are you doing?" "Really?" "I'm managing," I said. "I need to work." "It helps." She studied me carefully. "All right, but if you need anything at all, you tell me. And here, this is my friend's card. She's a therapist. A very good one." I took the card, surprised by the kindness. It brought tears to my eyes, but I blinked them back. Thank you. Work was exactly what I needed. Numbers, spreadsheets, reports. Nothing requiring emotion. Just routine. Calming, familiar. That evening, I went to the gym for the trial class. Group aerobics mixed with stretching. I stood in the back, self-conscious in baggy sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt. Around me, slender women in bright athletic were moved confidently through the exercises. "Don't worry about keeping up," the instructor said kindly. She was a woman in her 30s with short hair and an encouraging smile. "Move at your own pace. Just starting is what matters." I started. Within 10 minutes, I was gasping for air. My face burned red. My shirt stuck to my back with sweat. But I didn't stop. I slowed down when I absolutely had to, but I kept moving. After class, the instructor approached. "How was it?" "Hard," I admitted, wiping my face with a towel. "The first time always is. But you did great for sticking with it. Come back. In a month, you won't believe how much easier it gets." At home, I collapsed onto the bed, every muscle screaming. But it was good pain. The pain of effort, not the pain of a broken heart. My phone buzzed. A text from Trevor. "I'll be there Friday at 6 for my things." Short, businesslike, as if we were strangers who'd never shared 2 decades of life. I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Friday, 2 days away. I had 2 days to prepare myself. Thursday passed in a blur. I scheduled my consultation with attorney Ryan Bishop for Saturday. Bought proper running shoes. Cleaned the apartment methodically, removing every trace of Trevor's presence. Framed photos, his favorite mug, the reading glasses he'd left on the nightstand. I boxed it all up and put it by the door. That evening was my first online support group meeting. 7 women appeared on the video call, all with similar expressions. Tired, hurting, but also something else. Maybe hope. "Good evening," the moderator said. Her voice was gentle. "We have someone new with us. Tell us about yourself if you're ready." I took a breath. "My name is Sophia. My husband left a week ago for another woman. She's pregnant. He told me it was my fault, that I'd gained weight, that he was disgusted by me. And I almost believed him. Almost, I confirmed. But now I'm trying to get myself back. I don't know if I can, but I'm trying." The other women nodded with understanding that needed no explanation. One spoke up, a woman with red hair. "My ex left because I couldn't have children. He said I was defective. For 2 years, I believed him. Then I realized the problem wasn't me. The problem is a person who tears down the one they claim to love." The meeting lasted an hour. I mostly listened, absorbing their stories, their pain, their small victories. For the first time in forever, I felt less alone. Friday began with another gym class. This time I chose yoga for beginners. The instructor, an older woman with silver hair, helped me into poses and offered quiet encouragement. "Don't compare yourself to anyone else in this room," she said. "Only compare yourself to who you were yesterday. You're already better because you showed up." After class, I went to a cafe and ordered a vegetable salad. At the next table, a group of young women laughed over coffee. I watched them and wondered when I'd last laughed like that. Carefree and light. I couldn't remember. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old photos. Me at a college party in a short dress, laughing with friends. Graduation day in a red dress, slender and radiant. My first vacation with Trevor, on a beach somewhere, tan and fit in a swimsuit. That girl existed. She was real. Where did she go? I closed the photos and caught my reflection in the cafe's mirror. Round face, no makeup, hair pulled back. A jacket hiding everything. I'll find you. I promised my reflection softly. I swear I will. I got home by 5. Trevor would arrive at 6. I changed into jeans and a sweater, brushed my hair, even put on light lipstick. Not for him. For me. When the doorbell rang at exactly 6, I opened it. Trevor stood there with empty duffel bags. He looked different. Fresh haircut, new shirt. He'd even lost weight. "Hey," he said, walking in. "I'm here for my things." "Everything's boxed up by the door," I said, stepping aside. He went to the bedroom. I stayed in the kitchen, not wanting to watch him pack up the last remnants of our life. 20 minutes later, he emerged with stuffed bags. "I think that's everything." About the divorce, I cut him off. "I've already researched everything. I'm filing Monday. I want child support formalized and a visitation schedule established." He frowned. "You understand I have another family now. I can't pay as much." "You'll pay whatever the court decides," I said firmly. "Ethan is your son. You're legally obligated to support him. Sophia, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Let's handle this like adults." "Adults?" I laughed bitterly. "You left without even telling your son goodbye. You called me disgusting. And now you want to talk about being adults? Just go, Trevor." He stood there, clearly wanting to say something, then thought better of it. He grabbed the bags and headed for the door. "You know," he said at the threshold, "I thought you'd be crying, begging me to come back. And you even look like you've lost weight." "Go," I repeated. He shrugged and walked out. The door closed. I stood in the hallway, breathing slowly, deeply. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't collapse. I just stood there breathing. And then I smiled. Small but real. I'd won the first round. I hadn't broken, hadn't begged, hadn't shown weakness. Saturday morning, I met with attorney Ryan Bishop. His office was downtown, all polished wood and leather chairs. He was in his 50s with graying temples and sharp, attentive eyes. "Tell me everything," he said, opening his notepad. I told him. The affair, the humiliation, the pregnant mistress, Patricia's threats to take Ethan. I spoke calmly, without tears, just stating facts. Ryan listened, taking notes, occasionally asking questions. "All right," he said when I finished. "Unpleasant situation, but manageable. The apartment is in your name. That's good. With a minor child, courts almost always grant custody to the mother unless there are serious issues. Child support is 25% of income for one child. We'll establish a visitation schedule based on your preferences." "What if his mother tries for custody?" I asked. "Without grounds, she won't succeed. You're employed, you have housing, your parental rights are intact. A grandmother can petition, but the chances are minimal. Don't worry about that." Relief flooded through me. For the first time, I felt solid ground beneath my feet. "I'll prepare the documents," Ryan continued. "I'll need your marriage certificate, Ethan's birth certificate, the apartment deed. We'll file next week." "Thank you," I said, standing. "Thank you so much." Leaving his office, I felt like a warrior before battle. Scared but ready to fight. After the meeting, I drove to Rebecca's house to get Ethan. She lived in a small suburban home with a garden where Ethan was playing with his cousins when I arrived. "Mommy." He ran to me and wrapped his arms around my legs. "You came." I lifted him, held him tight. He smelled like summer grass and childhood sweat. "I came, sweetheart. I missed you so much. Where's Daddy?" "He didn't come," I said, sitting with him on a bench while Rebecca took the other children inside. Ethan, we need to talk. Daddy is going to live somewhere else now. Why? Is he mad at me? No, baby. No. I hugged him tighter. This isn't your fault at all. Sometimes grown-ups can't live together anymore. But Daddy loves you and you'll still see him. And you? Do you still love him? His voice trembled. I love you more than anything in the world, I said, kissing his head. And I'm never leaving. Ever. I promise. He cried softly against my shoulder. I stroked his back, fighting my own tears. This wasn't fair. He didn't deserve this. None of this was his fault. That evening we went home. Ethan was quiet, thoughtful. I made his favorite pancakes with jam. We watched cartoons together. When I tucked him into bed, he asked, Mom, will we be okay without Daddy? We will, I said firmly. I promise everything will be okay. After he fell asleep, I went to the balcony. The night was warm, smelling of blooming linden trees. Music played somewhere below. People laughed. I texted Rebecca. Thank you for everything. Your support means more than you know. Her reply came immediately. Always here, sis. You're doing amazing. I'm so proud of you. Sunday, Ethan and I spent the day at the park. Rides, ice cream, feeding ducks by the pond. He gradually relaxed, laughing again, though worry still flickered in his eyes sometimes. Mom, is Grandma Patricia going to visit? He asked as we sat on a bench. I don't know, sweetie. Do you want her to? He shrugged. She always says I eat wrong and play too loud. I sighed. Patricia had never known how to simply love her grandson. She criticized, lectured, compared him to other children constantly. If she comes, we'll see her. If not, that's okay too. You have Aunt Rebecca. You have friends. We're not alone. That evening after Ethan was asleep, Miss Chen called. Sophia, sorry to bother you on the weekend. I wanted to tell you about a new project. Office design for a major client. You used to do interior design, right? Yes, I said cautiously. But that was 10 years ago before Ethan. Doesn't matter. You have the degree. You have the eye. I saw your old portfolio when I hired you. The pay is excellent, separate from your accounting salary. Think about it. I hung up and stared at the phone. Interior design. My old dream. The reason I went to college. The thing I'd been passionate about before I buried it all for family, for domestic life, for a husband who left anyway. I went to the storage closet and pulled out a box of old work. Sketches, blueprints, photos of completed projects. An apartment for newlyweds. An office for a tech startup. A child's bedroom. All of it was part of me. The part I'd abandoned. I ran my fingers over one sketch. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's time to reclaim what I loved. I texted Miss Chun. I'm in. Let's try it. Monday started with new rhythm. I took Ethan to kindergarten. He went reluctantly, still worried, but I stayed upbeat, hiding my own anxiety. At work, Miss Chun introduced me to the client in the conference room. Sophia, meet Mr. Garrett. He's opening a new office and needs a designer. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Garrett said. I've heard excellent things. He was in his 40s, sharp suit, intelligent eyes. Show me your portfolio. I pulled out my tablet with photos of old projects. He studied them carefully, nodding occasionally, making comments. Good, he finally said. I like your style. Clean but with personality. The office is 2,000 square feet. Reception, 3 private offices, conference room, employee lounge. Budget we'll discuss separately. When can you start? I'll need a few days to see the space, take measurements, prepare initial sketches, I said, trying to sound confident. Excellent. Here's the address. Keys are with building security. I'll expect your concepts in a week. After he left, I sat there unable to believe what was happening. A real project. Something I'd dreamed about for years. Can you handle this? Miss Chen asked. I can, I said firmly. I absolutely can. That evening after tucking Ethan in, I pulled out old design textbooks and opened drafting software on my computer. My hands trembled with excitement. This was a chance to prove I wasn't just a discarded wife. I was a professional with talent. Tuesday, I visited the space. Empty white walls, large windows, high ceilings. I walked through taking measurements, snapping photos. Ideas formed immediately. Light tones, natural materials, lots of air and openness. Functionality with character. I spent 2 hours there sketching in my notebook. When I left, I felt alive. Truly alive for the first time in years. At my evening workout, the instructor noticed. "Sophia, you're doing great. I can see the difference already. Better posture, more confidence in your movement." Really? I looked in the mirror. It was true. Something had changed. Not yet in my appearance, but in how I carried myself. Absolutely. Keep going. In 2 weeks, you'll be unstoppable. At home, I stepped on the scale. Down 9 pounds in 2 weeks. Not much, but it was a start. Wednesday, Patricia called. Her voice was ice. "Sophia, I want to see my grandson. I'll be there Saturday." "Fine," I said calmly. 3 o'clock. "And I want to speak with you privately." "About what?" "You'll see." I hung up, heart heavy. What was she planning now? But I wouldn't be intimidated. Not anymore. Not when I was just starting to rebuild my life. Thursday and Friday blurred together as I worked on the project. Drawing sketches, selecting materials, drafting estimates. I worked late after Ethan slept, forgetting about food and time, completely absorbed. By Saturday, my first concept was ready. I looked at the result and smiled. It was good. Maybe even excellent. Saturday at 3, the doorbell rang. Patricia stood there with a large bag of gifts for Ethan. "Hello," she said coldly, walking in. "Grandma." Ethan ran from his room and hugged her legs. "Hello, my boy." She stroked his head. "I brought toys. Go look." Ethan grabbed the bag and ran off. Patricia removed her coat and walked into the kitchen like she owned the place. "We need to talk." "I'm listening," I said, sitting across from her. "Trevor told me you're filing for divorce. My attorney is preparing the petition. We'll file this week." She pursed her lips. "You're destroying a family." "Trevor destroyed it when he took a mistress," I replied calmly. "Men make mistakes. You need to forgive, to overlook some things. I did that my whole life with his father. Maybe that's why his father never respected you," I said quietly but firmly. "Forgiving repeated betrayal isn't strength. It's weakness. I won't live that way." "And how will you live?" Anger crept into her voice. "Alone with a child? You can't even take care of yourself. Look at you." "I am looking," I said, standing and walking to the hall mirror. "And you know what I see? A woman who stopped hiding. Who's fighting. Who's coming back to life. Yes, I'm not thin. But I'm working on myself. And I'm doing it for me, not for your son. Trevor says you're demanding child support. Ethan has the right to be supported by his father. It's not a demand. It's the law." Patricia grabbed her purse. "You'll regret this. Trevor will get a good lawyer. He'll sue for custody." "Let him try," I said, opening the door. "I have a lawyer too. And the law is on my side." She left without saying goodbye to Ethan. I closed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. My hands shook, but not from fear. From adrenaline. From realizing I hadn't backed down. Ethan peeked from his room. "Mom, did Grandma leave?" "She did, sweetie." "Is she coming back?" "I don't know. Maybe." "Good. She's always mean." I hugged him. Maybe she just doesn't know how to show love any other way. Monday, I met Mr. Garrett to present initial sketches. I'd worried all the way to his office, checking files for the 100th time. He examined each sketch carefully, zooming in, studying details. I sat with clasped hands, waiting. "Excellent," he finally said. "This is exactly what I wanted. Modern but not cold. Functional but with soul. When can you have full renderings?" "By the end of the week." "Perfect. And let's discuss the contract. Miss Chen sent your rates." "I agree. Plus a bonus if you finish on time." Leaving his office, I could barely contain my smile. This was victory. Small but real. I felt like a professional again. A needed person. Not just an abandoned wife. On the way home, Ryan called. "Sophia, news. Trevor hired an attorney. A good one. They'll try to lower child support and limit your rights to marital property. But the apartment is mine, I protested. I know, but they can demand compensation for renovations done during the marriage. Don't worry, we're ready. We have all documents confirming the apartment was yours before marriage. Just be prepared for the process to drag out. That evening, tucking Ethan in, he suddenly asked, Mom, does Daddy love me? Of course he loves you, sweetie, I said, stroking his hair. Then why doesn't he visit? Why doesn't he call? My heart sank. Trevor hadn't called once. Hadn't asked how Ethan was doing. Hadn't offered to meet. Daddy is very busy right now, but he'll definitely call. And if he doesn't, then you have me. And I'll love you for both of us. Deal. Deal. He hugged me. You're the best mom in the world. I left the room with tears in my eyes. How could Trevor just forget his own child? I dialed his number. Long rings, then he declined the call. I texted, Ethan is waiting for your call. Can you at least talk to your son? The reply came 30 minutes later. Can't right now. Later. I threw the phone on the sofa. Later. When was later? When the child stopped waiting entirely. The next day, Miss Chen called me in. Sophia, sit down. I want to talk. I tensed. The tone was serious. Mr. Garrett is very pleased with your work. He said he wants to continue working with you. He has several more properties. And I've been thinking, maybe you should transition to staff designer. Higher salary plus percentage of projects. I blinked, unable to process. But I'm an accountant. You were an accountant, she smiled. Now you can become what you dreamed of being. I see how passionate you are about this. It's your calling. Think about it. That evening at the gym, I ran on the treadmill thinking about the offer. Could I do this? Trade accounting stability for creative uncertainty? But didn't I deserve to try? Wasn't it time to stop living in fear? After the workout, Irene, the instructor, approached. Sophia, you've changed so much in 3 weeks. Not just physically. You're more confident. Stronger. Thank you, I said, wiping sweat from my face. I feel it myself. We have a support group at the club for women going through tough times. We meet weekly, share experiences, support each other. Want to join? Another support group. But why not? Maybe I'd find new friends there. People who understood. Yes, I said. I'd like that. Wednesday evening, the first club meeting happened. 5 women of different ages sat in a small room drinking tea, sharing stories. One was divorcing like me. Another had lost her job and was battling depression. A third was recovering from illness. Each had her own pain, but all shared one desire. To keep living. To not give up. I used to think if my husband left, I'd die, said one woman, Lorraine, in her 50s. We were together 30 years. Then he left for his assistant. I didn't get out of bed for a month. Then I realized either I keep lying there or I start living. I chose life. Now I have my own small business. I travel. I see friends. And you know what? I'm happy. Truly happy. Maybe for the first time in my life. I listened and understood. I was on the right path. The pain wouldn't disappear overnight, but life continues. And I had a right to that life. Thursday, I made my decision. I texted Miss Chun. I agree. I want to become staff designer. Her reply came instantly. Excellent. We'll discuss details tomorrow. That evening, I sat on the balcony with tea, watching the sunset. 3 weeks ago, my world crashed. I thought it was the end. It turned out to be the beginning of a new life I was building for myself. My phone vibrated. Text from an unknown number. Hello, this is Trevor's attorney. My client would like to discuss divorce terms out of court. Are you willing to meet? I read it several times. So Trevor was afraid of court. He wanted to negotiate. Interesting. I called Ryan. Trevor's attorney just contacted me. He's proposing a meeting. Good, Ryan replied. That's standard. I'll be with you at the meeting. Don't worry. We won't let them take advantage. Thank you. I hung up, stood from the chair, looked at my reflection in the window. The woman looking back was different. Not the one who cried by the window 3 weeks ago. This one was stronger, more confident, more alive. I can do this, I told my reflection. I absolutely can. The meeting was scheduled for Friday at Ryan's office. I prepared like it was an exam. Rereading documents, rehearsing answers, choosing my outfit. I settled on a gray pantsuit I'd bought before Ethan was born. It almost fit properly now. Down 17 pounds in 3 weeks. Progress was visible. I arrived 10 minutes early. Ryan was already there, spreading documents on the table. Stay calm, he instructed. Don't react to provocations. Answer clearly, factually. We know our rights. They know we know. At 2 o'clock, the door opened. 2 men entered. Trevor's lawyer, a man in his 40s in an expensive suit with cold eyes. And Trevor himself. I hadn't seen him in almost a month. He looked tired, older. Shadows under his eyes, more gray in his hair. Hello, the attorney said dryly, sitting across from us. I represent Trevor Hensley. We'd like to resolve divorce issues out of court in a civilized manner. We're listening, Ryan nodded. The attorney pulled out documents. My client agrees to the divorce. He's prepared to pay child support of $1,000 monthly, significantly lower than the legal 25%, but given he'll soon have another child. 25% of income, Ryan interrupted. That's the law. Having another child doesn't negate obligation to the first. But be reasonable, the attorney leaned forward. My client is willing to compromise. Additionally, he'd like to discuss property division. What property? I couldn't hold back. The apartment is mine. I received it from my parents before marriage. But renovations were done during marriage. The attorney looked at documents. With joint funds. My client is entitled to compensation. We estimate $300,000. That's absurd. Ryan pulled out his papers. Renovations were done 10 years ago. Depreciation is at least 50%. Moreover, your client lived in that apartment rent-free all those years, which already serves as compensation. The lawyers began arguing, throwing numbers and legal articles at each other. I sat watching Trevor. He avoided my gaze, constantly looking at the window or his phone. Trevor, I called quietly. He flinched, looked up. Did you think about Ethan even once? You haven't called in almost a month. He waits. He asks about you every night. Trevor shrugged. I'm busy. I'll call soon. Soon. When is soon? When your second child is born and you completely forget the first. Sophia, stop. Ryan tried to restrain me, but I couldn't. Everything that had built up inside spilled out. You ran away, Trevor. You were afraid of responsibility and you ran. It was easier to start over with a young girl than fix problems in our family. You're a coward. You always were. Trevor stood, face red. You drove me to it. Your attitude, your complaining, your helplessness. I couldn't live like that anymore. Then why didn't you leave sooner? I stood too. Why did you wait until you found a replacement? Why humiliate me instead of honestly saying the love was gone? Because I felt sorry for you, Trevor yelled. I thought you wouldn't make it on your own. I thought you'd fall apart without me. Well, I'm making it. I stepped toward him. I didn't fall apart. Maybe you were just afraid I'd make it too well. That I'd realize how easy it is to breathe without your constant criticism. Silence fell. The lawyers exchanged glances. I think we should take a break, Trevor's attorney said. I think we should proceed in court, Ryan said firmly. Gentlemen, we'll see you in the courtroom. Trevor grabbed his jacket and left without goodbye. His lawyer gathered documents and followed. When the door closed, I sank into the chair, hands shaking. I'm sorry, I whispered. I lost control. It's all right, Ryan poured water. Sometimes it's useful to say everything to his face. Now we know their exact position. They'll try to pressure and scare you, but they have a weak case. Don't worry. We'll win this. Leaving the office, I felt strange relief. I'd told Trevor everything I thought. Hadn't stayed silent, hadn't endured, hadn't swallowed the insult. I'd spoken out. And it felt right. On the way home, Rebecca called. Sophia, how was the meeting? Fine. He tried to negotiate. We didn't give in. That's my girl. Listen, are you free Sunday? I want to introduce you to someone. Who? I tensed. My coworker Nathan. Good guy, divorced, 2 kids, smart, decent. I think you'd have a lot to talk about. Rebecca, it's too soon. I haven't even officially divorced yet. I'm not talking about dating. Just meeting. Maybe you'll become friends. You need to expand your social circle. Can't just stay home alone. I thought about it. Maybe it was time. Not for romance, but for normal human interaction. All right, I agreed. I'll come. That evening after Ethan slept, I sat at my computer working on renderings for Mr. Garrett's project. The work absorbed me so completely I lost track of time. Choosing colors, arranging furniture, experimenting with lighting. At one point, I stopped and looked at the screen. It was beautiful. Truly beautiful. Maybe better than my work from 10 years ago. I stood, walked to the mirror, looked critically. My face had slimmed. Cheekbones more defined. Eyes no longer dull. They had a spark. Yes, I was still far from the slender girl I once was. But I was on my way. And most importantly, I felt alive again. My phone vibrated. Text from Lorraine from the support group. Girls, let's meet Saturday. Cafe, heart to heart. I smiled and replied. I'd love to. Saturday was sunny and warm. I met the women from the support group at a small, cozy cafe downtown. 6 of us gathered. Lorraine, Irene from the gym, 2 women from the online group, and a newcomer just starting her path after divorce. We sat at a large table by the window, drank coffee, shared updates. The atmosphere was warm, almost familial. Here, no need to pretend everything was fine. Here, you could be yourself. I went to the theater yesterday for the first time in 6 months. One woman, Nina, was saying, alone. I used to think it was embarrassing to go anywhere without a partner. And you know what? I loved it. I watched the play without being distracted. I was completely immersed. It was wonderful. I signed up for French classes, another shared. I always wanted to learn, but my husband said it was a waste of time and money. Now no one tells me what to do. I listened and realized each of them was reclaiming the right to her own life. Small steps, but moving forward. And I have news, I said. I'm changing careers. From accountant to designer. I'm going back to what I dreamed of 20 years ago. Wow, Lorraine raised her cup. To courage. To new beginnings. We clinked cups, and I felt something inside me warm. I had friends now. True friends who understood without words. After the cafe, we walked through shops. Irene dragged me into a sports store. You need proper workout clothes, she said. Not those baggy sweatpants. You need to see your body. See how it's changing. That's what motivates. I resisted, but Irene was insistent. We chose several sets. Bright, beautiful leggings and fitted tops. When I tried one on and looked in the mirror, my first reaction was embarrassment. The leggings hugged my hips. The top highlighted my stomach. I don't like it, I said. Now look again. Irene stood beside me. Don't look at what you don't like. Look at what's already changed. See, your legs are more toned. Your arms too. Your posture is better. You're not the same person you were a month ago. I looked closer. It was true. Changes were small, but there. I'll take it, I said decisively. That evening, unpacking purchases at home, I caught myself smiling. Just because. For no reason. When was the last time I'd smiled just because? Sunday began with a morning run. I got up early while Ethan still slept, put on one of my new outfits, went outside. I ran slowly, not long. Only 20 minutes. But it was my time. My effort. My victory over myself. After lunch, I went to Rebecca's. Her cousin lived in a small house on the outskirts with a garden and patio. When I arrived, guests were already there. Several couples with children, burgers grilling, music playing. Sophia, meet Nathan. Rebecca led a man in his 40s toward me. My co-worker, the one I told you about. Nathan was tall with a kind face and gentle eyes. He smiled, held out his hand. Very nice to meet you. Rebecca told me great things. Only good things, I hope, I said, shaking his hand. Exclusively. She says you're a talented designer. We talked easily, casually. Nathan worked as an engineer. He divorced 2 years ago, was raising 2 children, a boy and a girl. He didn't ask uncomfortable questions, didn't pry. Just talked about himself, listened to my stories. You know what's hardest after divorce? He asked when we sat on the patio with juice. Believing you can be happy again. That life isn't over. For the first year, I was like a zombie. Work, kids, home, that's it. Then I realized I couldn't live that way. I had to live for real. And how did you start? I asked. Small steps. Joined a cycling club. Started reading books I'd put off for years. Met up with old friends. Then gradually new hobbies, new people came along. And now, 2 years later, I'm happy. In my own way, but happy. I listened and thought, maybe this is the recipe. Small steps. Do something for yourself every day. Don't wait for a big breakthrough. Just keep moving forward. When we were leaving that evening, Nathan said, "It was really nice meeting you. Maybe we could meet again sometime. Just to talk. I feel like we're alike. We're both learning to live again." Yes, I agreed. Let's do that. We exchanged numbers. I didn't have romantic feelings for Nathan, but there was now a person who understood without words. And that was important. At home, a surprise awaited. A note from Ethan on the table, drawn in colored pencils. "Mommy, you are the best. I love you." Next to it was a drawing of us holding hands with the sun, flowers, and a rainbow. I pressed the drawing to my chest and smiled through tears. This was what I was fighting for. For this boy. For our future together. That evening after Ethan slept, I opened my laptop and checked email. A message from Mr. Garrett. "Sophia, the renderings are superb. I'm thrilled. When can you start project realization? And I have 2 more properties. I'd like to discuss permanent collaboration with you." I reread the email 3 times. Permanent collaboration. More projects. This meant stable income and opportunity to develop in the career I loved. I typed a reply. "I'm ready to start anytime. I'd be happy to discuss further collaboration." After sending, I leaned back in the chair, looked out the window. A month ago, my world crashed. I thought it was the end. It turned out to be the beginning. The beginning of a new life. My life. My phone vibrated. Text from Nathan. "Thanks for a great evening. You're an amazing woman. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise." I smiled. Maybe I really was amazing. Maybe I always had been. I just forgot. 2 more weeks passed. I officially transitioned to staff designer, and my life changed dramatically. Now I came to work not at 8 to sit over boring reports, but at 10 to meet clients, discuss projects, execute ideas. The project for Mr. Garrett successfully launched. He offered 2 more properties, a cafe and a private home. I worked late, but it was different exhaustion. Not draining, but invigorating. I'd lost 28 pounds. Old jeans that hadn't zipped for 6 months now fit loosely. My face had thinned. Cheekbones defined. In the mirror, I saw the woman I'd almost forgotten. Confident, lively, radiant. Nathan had become my friend. We texted almost daily, shared news, sometimes met for walks with the children. Nothing romantic between us, but support, understanding, friendship. One evening, sitting in the park watching children play on the playground, Nathan said, "You know, I look at you and I'm amazed. You've changed so much in a month and a half. Not just your looks. You're glowing from inside." "Really?" I smiled. "Truly. When we first met, you seemed broken, cornered. And now you're like a phoenix rising from ashes." "Maybe that's what it is," I said thoughtfully. "Maybe I needed to burn down to the ground to start over." That evening, returning home, I took out the diary I'd started after Trevor left. I reread first entries full of pain, despair, self-hatred. Then I read the last ones. About new projects, workouts, meetings with friends, plans for the future. Day 45. Today, for the first time in years, I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't turn away. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm no longer where I was. And that's the main thing. The next day, Ryan called and reported the court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks. "Be ready," he warned. "Trevor's lawyer will try to portray you as unstable, incapable of adequately caring for a child." We need proof to the contrary. What kind of proof? I asked anxiously. Letter from your job about your new position and salary. Character reference from kindergarten stating you're a responsible mother. Maybe testimonials from neighbors or friends. Anything proving your capability. I set about collecting documents. Miss Chin gladly wrote a character reference, noting my professionalism and responsibility. Ethan's teacher provided a positive review. My neighbor agreed to testify. But most importantly, I felt strong. I was no longer afraid of court. Let Trevor and his lawyer try whatever they wanted. I had proof I was a worthy mother and capable person. A week before the hearing, Trevor unexpectedly called. Not texted. Called. Sophia, we need to talk. His voice sounded tired. Not over the phone. Let's meet. Just the two of us without lawyers. I hesitated. Why did he want this? What was he planning? Where and when? Tomorrow at that coffee shop where we first met. Remember? I remembered. The campus coffee shop near our old college. 20 years ago we first spoke there. Shared our first kiss. All right. 6 p.m. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop exactly at 6. Trevor was already waiting at a table by the window. 2 cups of coffee in front of him. One with milk, one black. He remembered I liked coffee with milk. Hi, I said, sitting across from him. Hi. Trevor looked up, and I saw confusion in his eyes. You lost weight. You look good. Thanks. Awkward silence hung between us. Sophia, I want to apologize, he finally managed. For what I said to you. For how I treated you. It was wrong. I listened silently. I was selfish. I only thought about myself. My desires, my ambitions. I forgot I had a family, that I was responsible for you and Ethan. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Trevor ran a hand over his face. Because I realized I made a mistake. Vanessa, she's not who I thought she was. When the pregnancy started, the tantrums started. The demands. She wants an expensive apartment, a car, a nanny for the baby. She constantly compares me to her friends' husbands. Says I don't earn enough. I chuckled. And what do you want to hear from me? That I forgive you? That I'm ready to take you back? I don't know, Trevor admitted honestly. I just realized that with you, things were good. Stable. Reliable. You never demanded more. Because I didn't know I deserved more, I said quietly. Because you convinced me I was nothing special. That I was lucky you were with me at all. But you know what, Trevor? I figured it out. You were the lucky one that I was with you all those years. Trevor looked up, surprised. For 20 years, I lived for you. I continued, feeling confidence surge inside. I adjusted to you. Sacrificed my dreams. Ignored your flaws. And you ran at the first sign of trouble. You found a young girl who seemed perfect. But you know what your problem is? You're looking for an ideal. And ideals don't exist. Vanessa isn't perfect. The next woman won't be either. Sophia. No. Let me finish. I'm grateful you left. Truly. Because if you hadn't, I would have stayed that scared, unhappy woman who thought she was unworthy of love. And now I realize I am worthy. I'm talented. Strong. Beautiful. And I will find someone who appreciates that. Trevor sat silently, speechless. I stood, picked up my purse. I don't want to ruin your life, Trevor. I don't want revenge. I want justice. Child support for Ethan is your obligation, not a favor. You'll remain his father. I'll never turn my son against you. But you and I are over. We will never be together again. I walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. Walked down the street, and for the first time in many months felt absolutely free. I'd said everything I wanted to say. I was freed from the burden of the past. A week later, the court hearing took place. I came in my formal pantsuit with neat hair and light makeup. Ryan sat beside me. All necessary documents laid out before us. Trevor sat on the opposite side of the room with his attorney. He looked defeated, avoided looking my way. Trevor's attorney tried to portray me as unstable, citing my medical leave for nervous exhaustion. But Ryan easily countered, presenting letters about my new job, character references, witness testimonials. My client not only overcame a difficult life situation, he said, but emerged from it stronger and more accomplished. She changed to a more promising career, exercises regularly, is actively involved in her child's life. Meanwhile, the defendant has not called his son once in the month and a half since leaving the family, has shown no interest in his life. The judge carefully reviewed documents, asked questions, then announced a recess to reach a decision. I went to the hallway, sat on a bench. My hands shook, not from fear, but from tension, from awareness that my future was being decided right now. Nathan texted, "How's it going? Everything will be fine. I believe in you." Lorraine wrote, "Hang in there, friend. You're strong." Rebecca, "I'm with you, sis." I smiled. I had support. Real, sincere support from people who believed in me. Half an hour later, we were called back. The judge read the decision. The marriage between the parties is dissolved. The minor child will continue to live with the mother. The father is obligated to pay child support at 25% of his earnings monthly. Visitation schedule with the child is every other weekend and 1 month of summer vacation. No division of marital property is to be made, as the real estate belonged to the plaintiff before marriage. I exhaled. Victory. Full, unconditional victory. Leaving the courthouse, I saw Trevor standing by his car. He was smoking, though he never used to. "Sophia," he called. I stopped. "Can I call Ethan tonight?" "Of course. He'll be happy. And I truly want to be involved in his life. I'll visit as the court ordered." "Good," I nodded. "He needs that. He needs a father." "You really look incredible," Trevor suddenly said. "You didn't just lose weight. You're different. Strong. Confident." I was an idiot. "You were," I agreed. "But you know what? I'm glad everything happened this way. If you hadn't left, I never would have known what I was capable of. I never would have returned to my true self." I turned and walked toward the subway. Didn't look back. That chapter of my life was closed. That evening at home, I held Ethan and sat beside him on the sofa. "Sweetie, we need to talk. Today was the court hearing. Your dad and I are officially not married anymore. But you're still his son and he loves you. He'll be visiting every 2 weeks. You'll spend time together. And you won't be sad?" Ethan asked, hugging me. "No, baby. I won't be sad. Because I have you. And I also have a job I love. And friends. And a new life. And we are going to be happy. I promise." "Then I won't be sad either," Ethan decided. "Mom, is Daddy really going to call?" "He is. Tonight." And Trevor really did call. I handed the phone to Ethan and went to the balcony, giving them privacy. I stood there watching the city, listening to my son's voice as he excitedly told his father about kindergarten, his new toys, how he and his mother went to the park. My phone vibrated. Text from Mr. Garrett. "Sophia, I want to offer you the position of chief designer for my company. We're opening a design bureau. Interested?" I reread the message several times. Chief designer. My own bureau. It was more than a dream. It was a completely new life. I texted back. "Very interested. Let's discuss details." Then I sat in the balcony chair, wrapped my arms around my knees, and smiled. A month and a half ago, I'd been standing by the window, not knowing how to live. I thought my life was over. I thought I was a useless, pathetic woman. And now I was free. I had an interesting job, career prospects, a loving son, true friends. I'd lost 28 pounds and was continuing to work on myself. Not for my ex-husband, not to prove anything to anyone, but for myself. But that wasn't the end of the story, because sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. It's about transformation. It's about becoming so undeniably successful that the person who threw you away realizes exactly what they lost. And that realization, that moment of clarity, can be more devastating than any planned vengeance. What happened next? Well, Trevor never saw it coming. The next morning, when Trevor came to retrieve his last items from storage, he saw a note on the kitchen table. He unfolded it, read it, and a chill ran down his spine. Trevor, when you walked out, I thought I would die. I thought I wouldn't survive it, that my world had crashed. But you know what happened? I didn't die. I came back to life. While you were with me, I forgot who I truly was. I forgot about my dreams, my talents, my strength. I dissolved into the role of your wife. I lost myself. You humiliated me for gaining weight. You called me disgusting. You left for a younger mistress. And you know what I'm grateful to you for? For forcing me to wake up. I didn't lose weight for you. I didn't find my dream job despite you. I didn't become happy because I wanted to prove anything to you. I did all of it for me, because I realized I deserve it. You were looking for someone young and beautiful. You found her. I hope you're happy. And me. I found myself. And that is worth more than any relationship. Thank you for leaving. It was the best gift you could have given me. P.S. I'm opening my own design bureau. What I dreamed of 20 years ago. Better late than never. Goodbye, Trevor. Sophia. Trevor stood with the note in his hands, and everything inside him constricted. He'd lost this woman. Lost her forever. And suddenly, with horrifying clarity, he understood. He hadn't lost a pathetic, beaten-down housewife. He'd lost a strong, talented, amazing woman who simply needed a chance to spread her wings. And now it was too late. She had flown away, and would never return. 3 months later, I was standing in my new design bureau office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Portland. My name on the door in elegant silver letters. Sophia Chun Design Studio. A team of 3 junior designers working under my direction. Projects lined up for the next 6 months. I'd lost 42 pounds total. Not because I was chasing some impossible standard, but because I'd learned to take care of myself, to prioritize my health, to see my body as something worthy of respect, not punishment. Nathan and I had started dating. Slowly, carefully. 2 people who'd been burned learning to trust again. Ethan adored him, and his kids adored me. We weren't rushing anything, just enjoying the discovery of something real, something built on mutual respect rather than desperate need. I saw Trevor occasionally when he picked up Ethan. He looked older every time. Tired. The relationship with Vanessa had deteriorated after their daughter was born. She'd left him 6 weeks after the birth, moved back to her parents' house, filed for child support. Now he was paying for 2 children, living in a small apartment, working longer hours to make ends meet. I didn't gloat. I didn't feel satisfaction at his struggles. I felt nothing. He was simply a person I used to know. Someone who'd once been important, but was now just a chapter in a book I'd finished reading. The women from my support groups had become my closest friends. We celebrated each other's victories, held each other through setbacks, reminded each other of our worth when the world tried to convince us otherwise. We'd started a podcast together, sharing our stories, helping other women who were going through what we'd survived. It was called Phoenix Rising. The response had been overwhelming. Looking back, I realized something profound. Trevor leaving me wasn't the worst thing that ever happened. It was the catalyst for the best thing. It forced me to confront who I'd become, to acknowledge the pieces of myself I'd abandoned, to rebuild from the ground up, not into who I was before, but into someone entirely new, someone stronger, someone I actually liked. The revenge I'd gotten wasn't the kind you plot in the dark. It wasn't public humiliation or financial ruin. It was simply this, becoming so successful, so happy, so completely fulfilled that when Trevor looked at me now, he saw everything he'd thrown away, everything he'd never truly appreciated, everything he'd never get back. And that knowledge, that profound regret, was far more devastating than anything I could have planned. Because you can't undo genuine transformation. You can't reclaim someone who's discovered they were never broken in the first place. Just buried. Just waiting for the right moment to rise. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I learned that the sweetest revenge is living well. It's becoming undeniable. It's rising from the ashes not to prove anything to the person who burned you, but to prove everything to yourself. Trevor left because he thought I was worthless. He returned because he realized I never was. But by then, I'd already figured that out on my own. And that made all the difference. Looking back, I realized that losing everything wasn't the end. It was the beginning of finding myself. Sometimes life has to break you open so you can finally see what's inside. Pain changes you, yes, but it also shapes you. I used to think I needed someone else to make me feel whole. But now I know I was always enough. And if you're going through something similar right now, please remember this. You're stronger than you think. You are more valuable than anyone who made you feel worthless. And it's never, ever too late to start again, to rise, to become exactly who you were always meant to be.